Hello, friends. My name is Christian, and welcome to my ayahuasca experience. Now, um, I want to preface this video by telling you that I am coming from the perspective of, well, very particular, from the perspective of someone who's seen entities, which we all call ETs, right? The Greys. The Greys in particular. I've had experiences with, or experiences called of the fifth kind, face to face with beings that we call ETs, allegedly, right? But my main interest in dealing with or having an ayahuasca experience and DMT experience was to see whether there are many people out there who claim that when they are on DMT, when they have an ayahuasca, they experience aliens. And a lot of the urban myth, there's an urban myth that's been created online, to say one thing, in regards to the entities that you can meet in the DMT space. There should be a better word for it. Subspace, mental space. Anyways, so I was curious because I've had a lifelong experience of seeing and coming in contact with these beings to a very high degree. Okay, and what people term an experiencer. It's a term used in parlance to do with ET contact. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to find out whether there was any connection because people keep saying they see ETs. So my first session with ayahuasca, I would say it was quite mild. Obviously, it's not a legal substance, so I won't be speaking too much in detail about anything to do with it outside of the experience. But anyways, my first experience was with what people refer to as I went into the experience, and as usual, you feel like prior to like what people say is it's the rainbow bridge. The rainbow bridge is that threshold that you cross. But prior to it, you feel like you're going to freaking die. You get this anxiety built up inside you. But as you hear that whistle, that very high-pitched internal sound, and everything begins to turn into, or let's just put it this way, you start seeing a geometric mesh over everything, kind of like a topology of sorts, a 3D topology on everything. You see this net, right? And you hear the whistle. That's when I'm assuming that's when your pineal gland begins to vibrate at a high rate. I've had similar experience, spontaneous Kundalini experiences, where you can hear the incredible sound of the Kundalini energy force rushing through your spinal column. Similar, but not the same. It is a sound that you hear prior to going into the DMT space. Anyways, so the first entities that I experienced there were entities similar to what people refer to as these machine elves, but to me they didn't look machine-like. They were more like soft and swarming, yes, but more like cartoons, like cartoonish, almost on that ridiculous level, um, kind of like what you see in the cartoons from the late '60s, or the album cover Yellow Submarine, and there's like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, the song. There's a video, and that is animated with cartoons, obviously, and the cartoons look very similar. At least that was my experience. That they were shape-shifting. So it was like essentially 3D creatures with many teeth, many eyes, lots of legs, giggling, but that was kind of, to me, it was kind of ridiculous and in a way meaningless, right? I guess to some people they act more like clowns or jesters, and people get, I guess, harassed by them or something like that. But for me, it was quite pointless. I wasn't moved in any way. So, anyways, as I moved into the DMT space, I began traveling into what I can only describe as a 3D, kind of like what you would see, a three geometric, kaleidoscopic, fractal, kind of like generated by computers, fractal world where you are going in and traveling into these structures that are in there. And my experience was that I saw a lot of structures that emulated the look of human skeletons, and that was kind of like eerie. And perhaps the point for me to see that was to, I don't know, to incite some sort of, or to get a rise from me. But again, I'm an artist, so I'm a visual artist, so I do all kinds of like grotesque stuff, like skeletons and stuff like that, scary things like that. It's not something that I'm, too emotionally shocked by at all. Okay, so I kept on traveling into this space, and I kept seeing more and more imagery that was kind of like horrifying, I guess, to some people, because it was like self-transforming skeletons and skulls, and I'm not sure if it was like supposed to scare me or anything like that, but it didn't really. Most of the time I was like thinking, what can I ask my intention was, if I was going to be having an experience with another self-aware entity within the space, that I should ask some questions pertaining or important to me, to my life, right? So that I was hoping for that, right? So none of that happened in the first session of ayahuasca. And I didn't like throw up or go to the toilet or anything like that. But in the second time, the second session, I actually, we go through the ringing in the brain, and as well as, the crossing thresholds and going into these other self-generating fractal worlds, until I got to a place where there was these beings, and they looked kind of like ETs, but they were not clearly. They kind of were more like an early version of the 3D graphics that you get back in the late 80s or mid 80s. Very simple geometrics, but they were 3D. And in this environment, there was these I can only describe them as ant people, like ant ant people that sort of resemble gray aliens, but they were more like ants. Greys don't look like ants. You could say that they look, but it's I mean, I have to be, specific. So these entities were 3D. You could tell they were 3D. They weren't. Their body wasn't necessarily. They were in segments, but they weren't necessarily attached. They were kind of like float. Their sections were kind of like magnetized here. But anyways, they asked me telepathically if I wanted a surgery because they said I needed it. And telepathically I said, why not? I said, sure, thank you. So they ended up actually helping me with an issue that I had in my digestion. So I could see the entity going with these many fingers going incredibly fast on my sides, on the sides of my body. And I guess I felt like I had a body. I wasn't sure. In that space, you don't really see yourself. Or at least I didn't see myself. I just knew I was there. But anyways, as soon as that was done, I felt an incredible need to go to the toilet. So I left the locker, this circular room, and went and did a number 2, which was very difficult for some reason. But I was hearing what was really strange when I went to relieve myself in the toilet. The music that was being played inside the locker, because these guys were playing music, somehow began sounding like the music from way back in time, when I was a child, and I used to listen to, just accidentally, I would listen to music from the north of my country, which is Chile. So I would listen to music from the Arica, Antofagasta, desert areas of Chile in the north, where there was there's still festivals. And I thought, how strange, why am I hearing the music from there? Anyway, so that left a huge question mark in my mind. And the third experience that I had with ayahuasca wasn't so profound, but still, when I went home after the third session, I began looking for I forgot about this. So as I went back after going to the toilet and came back in and sat down and started going into the trip again, I went into this, I crossed another threshold, and it was made of kind of like a wall made of light, and kind of like, imagine if you were crossing some kind of like an Egyptian very geometric wall, very simple rectangular door, but it's all solid light, and you walk through, you move through, and beyond this threshold, this door, this archway, there was these beings that looked like they were wearing dragon masks, very particular masks though, masks that looked like the same characters back in my country at a festival in the north of Chile, in Antofagasta, called La Tirana, which is a very old festival from the years of during the Conquista or Reconquista of Chile. And so anyways, I was like, what is this? Plus the music, it's the same music and it's the same imagery. So these beings looked just like the characters from the Tirana, and that just left a very strong mark in my conscious mind in regards to what is it all about? What's the connection between my culture, my memories, my emotional attachment to where I come from, the experience that I just had with ayahuasca, the music, and all of it, you know? So I realized that after doing some searches online about the Tirana, with the festival in Chile, those characters look exactly like the same as the dragons inside the hyperspace of the DMT world. That was like mind-blowing, because it gave me this tremendous connection to my cultural background. Because, by the way, my grandparents, they come from the north of Chile. They come from that town where the Tirana is actually held. So that was quite mind-blowing. Yeah, so that was my experience with DMT, or my experience with the ayahuasca drink. So I hope you enjoyed that, and if you have any questions, let me know. Bye-bye.